Hi, everybody. So we have got the lovely Jayne here joining us today, and she is one of my clients. And her story has got me really sparked for thought and stimulated me to do this live stream because basically, one of the things that I'm really aware that owners get really panicked about is what happens if everything goes wrong. And that is not an unreasonable worry. So dogs have surgery, and obviously anything has surgery. And sometimes, with all the best intentions, biology is absolutely not perfect in any way, shape, or form. Biology is a nightmare. It does not play by the rules, and it does its own thing, and things just don't go according to plan. And so I just wanted to get Jayne on here to tell you her story, how it's been, because ultimately, even if things don't go according to how they should and how you want them to, even in those situations, if you have the right team on board, then you have got the support that you need and you can get through the other side. And this is Jayne's story. So, Jayne, hello. Introduce
Hello.
you and Lady Bug.
Yep, this is Bug. She's a rescue dog. We think she's a Yorkie Maltese, but Donna's convinced she might have a little bit of Spaniel in her too. I'm going to put her down because she doesn't always play ball, doesn't perform. So we rescued her about 8 years ago. She was incredibly timid and scared of life when we first got her. And I suppose it took us a good 6 years to get her to a stage where she was comfortable with us, completely trusted us, and was happy with other people coming in to the house. We think she's had a few broken bones in her time and has been badly treated in the year to 18 months that she was when we got her. We think she's about 9 or 10. We're not entirely sure. But yeah, that's kind of her story. That's how long she's been with us.
Poor thing. That's quite a story, isn't it? But well done, you guys. I'm always a very big fan of a rescue. So she's a happy, little energetic dog. What's her little lifestyle like?
Yeah, so before February this year, she's quite an independent thing. She loves sitting on the back of the sofa, looking out of the window, barking at the postman. She's very protective of her environment, so she'll bark at anything that comes to the door. Likes to sit on the stairs if one of us is upstairs and the other one's downstairs. And likes to go off on her own for a while as well. And I think that's been one of the hardest things for her. Her lifestyle has changed massively. And she used to be very feline. She leaps and jumps all over the place. Is quite agile, or was quite agile until February this year.
So tell us more about what happened in February and what, led to her situation and her surgery.
So she's been amazing. I mean, she's not really had any problems in all the time that we've had her. And in February, she just randomly kind of went lame in one of her back legs, her left back leg, and started hopping. It was about 5:45 on a Friday. So we rang our vets. They wouldn't see her because they closed at 6. So we had to go to an emergency vet because I've had I've had dogs for most of my life. I'd never come across that problem before, so I really didn't know what I was doing. So we took her to the emergency vet, and they said that they thought it was her kneecap that was the problem, and the likelihood would be that she would need surgery. So she had x-rays at our standard vets later the next week. And yes, it was not only her kneecap, but it was also one of her cruciate ligaments. And they also told us that the leg she wasn't hopping on at the back would also need surgery too at some point.
Scary stuff. Poor you. How were you feeling at that point?
I live with my daughter who's 22, and I think both of us were just a bit gobsmacked. It was a bit of a shock. As I say, she'd never had surgery or needed surgery apart from being spayed. And so, yeah, we were nervous about it. Also, in the blood tests that they did before surgery, they found out that she had some kidney problems. So we had to put her on renal food. So there was a massive amount of change going on in her life, which had a knock-on effect. I think we were just really worried, A, about her going under surgery, and B, whether it would work or not, because they did tell us that it wasn't a guarantee that it would work.
And that's the thing, is that, you know, all the time, this is why you get so much worry in your head as an owner, is because you're always told very honestly what the percentage chance of failure is. And, you know, and that does mean that it happens to some dogs. There's no denying that. And that's another reason why it's really good to talk about this, is because you know, it can be quite debilitating to make that leap of faith to do something, but actually the alternative isn't right either. It's not okay to just necessarily leave them. So you know, so yes, I mean, God, it is an awful situation as an owner. You must have had your mind blown to have so many issues all at once, when you thought all of a sudden you've got an amazingly normal dog, and then all of a sudden you're down this road. So so you then went ahead with your surgery, and of course then it was COVID time, so proper nightmare. So what happened after the first surgery?
So after she'd had her first surgery, she had her first surgery sort of mid-March, and then a couple of weeks later we went into lockdown. So the aftercare for her was not great at all. It was very difficult. To be fair, at our vets, lots of people were furloughed, just like in the company that I worked in. My daughter was actually furloughed. And so the aftercare that we got wasn't as good as it could have been. We were told about 5 or 6 weeks that we should try hydrotherapy at home. We should Google it and try and do it ourselves, which was the most traumatic experience we've ever been through. Bug doesn't really like water anyway, so it was horrible for her. My daughter got incredibly wet doing it as well, and it was really unsuccessful. And that's kind of what led us and led my daughter to finding you, Donna. And it was when you then came in to the equation that we actually started to feel like we understood what was going on, and had some support, and it was great. I mean, I think she had her first physio with you, which was eye-opening for us because we'd never had a physio for a pet before either. But I think it was the second session she had with you that we realised that there was a bit of a problem, and maybe things weren't quite as we'd hoped they would be.
Yes, I do remember that moment well. So I think that I should also put a plug out here for the hydrotherapists that will be watching this, and say, you know, they will be mortified to know that you've been told to do it on your own. Yeah, so there's definitely, yeah, that was a weird one to have been told. But I do understand that obviously with COVID going on, that perhaps that was where that came from, because they probably thought that all the hydrotherapists were shut down. And to be fair, lots of them were. But I do know I had some conversations through that COVID patch with some hydrotherapists that I know, to try and do the best you could in that situation. But either side, anyway, you were able to come for the physio, which was fantastic. And obviously I was thrilled to be able to help. And so, I mean, how did you feel at that point, you know, that you had somebody else on board to be helping you out?
To be honest, you've been a massive lifeline for my daughter and I, because up until the point that we started to see you, we were really confused about everything to do with Bug, really. She'd been incredibly poorly because of her renal problems. The food change had upset her. She wasn't in a great place. She absolutely hated both of us when she first came out of surgery, which is heartbreaking, because I think, you know, when you rescue a dog, you nurture them and try and get them to a place where they trust you. And we felt as though, you know, she didn't understand why we'd put her in a situation where she could be hurt, when everything else in the 8 years we'd had her had led her to think that we'd protect her. So I think not understanding what we could do for her to help her was a massive stress for both of us. It was also like having a baby, because all of a sudden you'd had this independent dog who fit into your lifestyle amazingly, to having a really poorly injured dog that you had to care for 24 hours a day almost. I mean, after the first surgery, we took it in turns to sleep downstairs with her because she had to have cage rest. We'd never caged her before either. So having you on board really helped us to understand, A, what the problems were, B, that there was some rehabilitation that we could do with her alongside what you were doing, which I hadn't really understood before. And we really felt as though we were on the road to recovery with you. I have to say, after that second appointment with you, when you said, I think there's a problem, we were like, oh no. And we're a bit nervous every time we came to you for a little while after that, thinking, is there going to be another problem? But yeah, that you telling us there looked to be another problem meant that we went back to the vets. And I don't think we would have recognised that had we not had you supporting us.
So the following problem was that the knee was still unstable, and so you obviously had to go back to the vet, and there was a lot of communication to with the vet, because obviously I rang the vet to try and discuss it and and help with that process as well. And then tell us what happened next, because you then had more trouble.
Yeah, we did. So part of the issue, I think, is that with our vet, they don't have an orthopaedic surgeon who is resident with them. So there was communication, trying to get them to communicate with you, to communicate with the surgeon and with us. We were told that Bug had more X-rays, and we were told that actually we had a choice. They could go in and put a stitch in to try and keep the kneecap in place, or they could replace and you'll know the technical term, I don't, they could put another implant in, which was the groove that the kneecap sits in. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that's well described. That is well described. I can't remember the name of the implant either, but that's
okay.
Absolutely right.
And I've got a son who doesn't live here. He lives up in Newcastle, and my son and my daughter and I debated it and wondered what we would do, because none of this has come cheap either. Which is another worry. We were in lockdown. I was on a pay cut. My daughter was furloughed. But we decided that we would go for the more expensive surgery, because there was a chance that we would end up there anyway, because the stitch might not work. So we decided we'd go for the more expensive surgery with the second implant, and hope that would mean that we'd reduce the amount of chance of it going wrong, I guess. So she had her second op about beginning of July, I think it was.
So you had a long time between op 1 and then op 2, because that it just ended up being quite a drawn out process, and there was also, you had to have time to make your decisions, which was obviously tough. But you did have a rehab program in between, which was helpful. And I know there was a lot of communication with me as well, so that, you felt supported, which was, because that's so important, isn't it? And then, finally, everybody watching is not going to believe this, but then you poor thing, 1 week after surgery again, it was 1 week, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was about that.
Yeah, you ended up having to go back again. Do you want to describe your third feelings?
Yeah, I think you were really, really helpful for us. And I do need to say that I think having a physio involved is so important, because actually at a vet's, you don't always see the same vet. So it's a bit like going to a doctor's and getting a locum. You're having to kind of, they don't know your animal, they don't know your pet. Having a physio involved, you've really got to know Bug. You kind of know her character. And your support for us isn't just when we bring Bug to see you for a session. You're on text with us, you're on email with us, phone calls, and it is like having a helpline, because there were so many questions that we had that we weren't able to get answers from the vet, and you were able to help us navigate through making decisions. And also, I have to say, Donna, you're the only person out of everybody that has been involved, friends, family, professionals, that has actually ever asked how my daughter and I are, and who has appreciated how stressful these last 6 months have been, trying to care for Bug and the worry about her not being right. So yeah, I actually, when I found out she had to have the third op, because against all odds, the other cruciate in her leg had gone, I just burst into tears at the vets. I was a blubbering mess.
Not surprised.
And the surgeon was amazing, and he has been really supportive. He's been great. But yeah, I was a blubbering mess. A poor man. I think he just wanted me to get me out of his room as quickly as he could. But yeah, but disbelief, and I know that you had disbelief as well, but also really worried about her going through a third lot of surgery within 6 months. Yeah, it was scary.
It is. You have been through so much, and I hope everybody watching can appreciate that. That's why I wanted to get Jayne on here to talk about this, because it is literally every owner's worst fear. But Jayne, you've come through it, haven't you? And so has Bug. And how are you feeling like today, you know, on this situation? How is Bug?
Do you know what? She's great. She's and Donna will know this. She's a bit of a monkey. As she's getting better, and she hasn't hopped now for about 3 weeks, so it's brilliant. All of the rehab is working. She's very happy. She's eating really well. Her kidney problems have gone. The biggest problem we have with her now is trying to make sure that she doesn't do the things that she's not allowed to. So she doesn't slip out of the room and get up the stairs. She doesn't jump on the sofa. She doesn't go up on her hind legs, which is all the things that she wants to do. But yeah, she's really happy. She's, in actual fact, it's the positive thing that's come out of it is that she's much calmer. She's always been a nervy dog. But throughout this time, she's really calmed down and chilled out. And I think everybody said after the first surgery was the absolute worst. It was horrible. I remember you saying to us, you know, don't expect too much after the second surgery. It's going to be really hard for her. In actual fact, after the second surgery, it was almost like she thought, oh, okay, I've done this before. It will get better. I'll just chill out about it. And by the third surgery, she recovered so quickly. And I think some of that was to do with her mental state, if you like, and our mental state, because we weren't so stressed about it. Once the surgery, we knew what to do after the surgery. But I also think a lot of it was down to the rehabilitation that you've done with us, because she was in a much stronger position. She wasn't as weak in her leg as she was when she went into the first one. So yeah, touch wood. At the moment, her rehab's going well. I think we're about 8 weeks post-op now. And I know that it's going to be about 12 weeks, even longer than that, before we can relax a little bit. And we're just fingers crossed that the other leg holds out until this one's strong enough for her to go into surgery for the other one.
Yes, definitely fingers crossed. It's interesting what you say there as well, because ultimately you had a nervy dog to start with, and it's quite interesting because this is one of the things I always say is how important your dog bond is, and how massage can help with that bond. And so really what you've achieved is something, because you did all that touch and all that time with her, you've actually managed to reduce her anxiety, which is an almost bonkers and a side effect that you wouldn't think of, isn't it? But it's a really positive thing as well. So so that's really nice to see something positive come out of it, because it'd be easy to think, oh, she's just calm because she's tired or whatever, but that's not her at all, because she's absolutely bonkers. So it is nice, because actually you have had a really positive effect from that. And so the other question I wanted to ask is, do you feel that the cost of the rehabilitation has been good value?
I think for us, it's invaluable. That we pay you for the sessions that you see Bug. What we get back from you is 100-fold, because it isn't. We pay for that bit of time, but we get so much of your time, and the help that you give to us really has meant that it's been less stressful. That we've understood it, and yeah, that is absolutely value for money. I would recommend anybody go to a hydrotherapist. Don't ever try it yourself. And physio for us, because Bug hates water. For us, Donna, you have been an absolute lifeline. And I know that our relationship with you is going to carry on for quite a long time, because she's got a long rehab. And the more you get to know her, the easier it is for us to work with you, and the happier that she is too. And so, yeah, I absolutely think it's value for money.
Thank you. Well, that's all very glowing of you. So thank you so much. It's very kind of you to say. And, you know, it just makes me want to touch on the fact that ultimately this is all about good teamwork. And, you know, getting a good team of people together really helps people out. So, you know, what I just want to say out there to anybody who's watching this, and you know, this is your worst fear, is when it goes wrong, it can be fine. You know, I can't say enough times that, you know, get the team on board, get your physio, get your rehabber, and, you know, they become part of that team, and then we can really help you through this so that you don't have to fear, you don't have to feel you're on your own, because you're not, and you do need that support. And it is something I strongly believe in. I strongly believe that it's the most important thing to help you feel less stressed, because if you're less stressed, your dog's less stressed, and then it all works better and my job's done better. So you know, it is of huge importance. So thank you so much, Jayne, for joining me and for sharing your story. I know that so many people will have been so thrilled to hear what it's been like for you, and like I say, that you're out the other side and it's all gone well. And I'm sure that everybody will join me in wishing you luck with the other surgery. And, you know, let's hope that it's not needed. No, thank you so much. I'm very, very grateful. And I will see you again in a couple of weeks anyway.
You're welcome. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.